Coming up, we hike Hanging Lake in Glenwood Canyon, Colorado, and Crater Lake in Maroon Bells, Aspen, Colorado. So we went to Colorado in 2020 during COVID, and we were going to take our bikes. That was the main reason for the trip. We were going to ride Colorado with our electric bikes. Well, because of my wife's accident in June, we weren't able to because she fractured her elbow and took a big chunk out of her leg. So instead we flew out there, but it was nice because I got to see Colorado for the first time, and we did many things. We still wanted to take our bikes, so we took them in 2021. And while we were out there, we mainly stayed in Snowmass Village and did Aspen and the Maroon Bells and everything. In 2020, we hiked Maroon Bells around the lake, and then we wanted to do Crater Lake, but we kind of got lost. There was an avalanche, and we couldn't really see where the path went. There was nobody else out there. It was early morning, so we never got to see it. So we did that hike in June this year, and then a few people recommended Hanging Lake, so we did Hanging Lake. And actually we did Hanging Lake on a Wednesday, and then we did Crater Lake on a Thursday. And putting those two back together almost killed us. But and we're not novices at hiking. I mean, we've done Mount Rainier. We went up to the glacier, which is pretty steep, and we've done Yosemite. And I mean, we're not big hikers. But even in my 30s, not overweight and in good shape, I think both of these would be pretty hard hikes. Now, we've seen some younger people that could go up there with no problem. And the other thing was, this is what the temperature was the day that we did Hanging Lake. And then the next day at Crater Lake, it wasn't much cooler, but we did it a little earlier in the morning. Things you want to take on these two hikes: bring plenty of water. I know everybody tells you that, but you don't think you're going to run out. But we brought 6 bottles, and we just made it with the 6 bottles. I suggest a good night's sleep. I suggest wearing some good boots or hiking shoes. And I made fun of my wife when she bought these, but I was glad that she shared one with me because it made coming down that thing a lot easier. So much so that when we got home, I bought a set too. The pathway into the trail is about a 1/4 mile, and it's nice concrete, but don't be fooled because that ends pretty fast. Then it got a bit harder. As soon as we hit the path, we encountered this guy. Should have gave us an indication what was ahead. A very rough day. There was some areas along the path that looked like they were blocked or they weren't a path at all. In fact, if it wasn't marked with some signs, you wouldn't know if you should do it or not. Just to give you an idea of difficulty, we finally reached this point over an hour. It took us to get to a 1/2 mile. As we were walking up, quite a few people were passing us saying, "You're almost there," but the last of it is pretty rough. We weren't kidding, because I'm going to tell you, I had to hold this rail quite a few times, and you almost have to crawl up till you get to the end of it and onto the lake. once you get to the lake, they have this nice wooden platform that goes all the way around the lake because they don't want you near it, touching any of the ecosystem, messing it up. When I first saw it, it reminded me a lot of Rifle Falls, which we visited last year. It's kind of like Rifle Falls without the 3.5-hour hike up. And while you're there at Hanging Lake, you might as well take another little trip up to Sprouting Rock. It's pretty cool, and it's not that much more of a hike. You can actually walk right underneath it. And when it's hot, it's very refreshing. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 13. It is very pretty. I don't know if you'd say it's worth it or not. But on to the next one. So the very next day after Hanging Lake, after the beating we took, we said we'd try to find Crater Lake because we didn't find it a year before. It's only 1.4 miles. So the next morning, we drove back to the Bells and started our hike. This is nowhere near as hard as Hanging Lake. So as we had an increase in elevation, there was definitely an increase in rocks. It just kept getting rockier and rockier the more we went up. And as all places in Maroon Bells, every view is beautiful, awesome, and breathtaking. After 2 hours of walking up a very rocky road, we finally made it to Crater Lake. And we're gonna walk down there in a minute and see if it was all worth it. As you can see, it is very beautiful. It's very secluded. Is it worth it? Well, since we did it, yeah, I guess it is. But it wasn't easy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.